EM accuses me of stealing my own car keys. This happened yesterday, and yes, it was as stupid as it sounds. So, for some quick context, I'm a cleaner at a private school. It costs something like £25k a year to send your kid here, so you can imagine the amount of rich, entitled BS that goes on. You already know who EM and me are, so let's get into it. It's 4 p.m. and I've been at work for an hour just getting on with what I'm doing, and the EM comes storming into the classroom I'm cleaning. EM, you need to move your car. Me. What? Why? EM, speaking very slowly and loudly for some reason. You need to move your car. Me, copying her tone. No, I don't. M, does some confused blinking. Why are you talking like that? Me. Because you were. EM. Whatever, just move your stupid car. It's blocking me and I have an appointment. Me. Lady, my car isn't blocking you. I'm parked along the back row by a hedge, blocking nobody. EM. You're lying. Come and move your car right now. This goes on for about 5 minutes and eventually I figure she won't shut up unless I do something. Me. Look, if I prove that my car isn't the one blocking you, will you get out of my face? EM. Finally, just move the stupid thing so I can go. So I go get my keys from the cupboard where my stuff is. EM practically glued to my shoulder the whole time. Go to the car park, press the button on my key, and the lights blink on my beat-up Fiat in the corner. Me. See my car, right there, not blocking anyone. Thinking that's the end of it, I turned to go back to my job, and she started screaming behind me. EM. You stole those keys! That's not your car! Your car's in front of mine! Get your keys right now and move it! Me. Okay, which car do you think is mine? I figured if it's a staff member's car, I could direct the crazy bitch to them. She marched over to a Range Rover, presumably hers, which was blocked in by a brand new Porsche, a brand new freaking Porsche, and glared at me. I must have stared at her for at least 10 seconds before I started laughing my ass off. Me. Lady, if you think I could afford that car on a part-time cleaning job, you must be delusional. She then started yelling about how I'm deliberately stopping her leaving, and she's going to have my car towed, but I just walked away. I don't get paid enough to deal with that crap. I have no idea what happened after that, but I really hope the Porsche driver didn't leave for another few hours, just to stick it to her. Story 2. Karen's middle seat. Another Karen on a plane post reminded me of this lovely experience last month. Due to a new procurement process clusterfuck at work nobody cares about, I booked a flight to my conference destination really late. All that was left were middle seats or ponying up personally for an upgrade, which wasn't going to happen for a relatively short flight. Out in the boarding area, they announced many times that it was a full flight and kept begging people to gate-check their bags. It wasn't subtle. After they let all the military, first class, frequent flyers, and blah blah need more time people board, my group got to plod down the jetway. Once we got onto the plane, I could see my fate before me. A wild Karen was sitting in an aisle seat. The middle was piled with Karen crap, backpack, electronic devices, stuffed animal, snacks. And a miniature Karen was over in the window seat, happily kicking the empty seat in front of her so hard it was visibly shaking. Joy. That's Count's Rose. Definitely mine. When I got to the row, I pointed to the middle seat to indicate it's mine. Karen did not budge or move a single thing from that crap-henge. I tried again with the whole, "Sorry, that's my seat" routine. She snapped at me. "Sit somewhere else." I'm all, "Can't do that. Full flight. This is my assigned seat." Well, Karen wasn't having that. Did I know what kind of day she'd had? It had started the day before. Their flight was diverted. They missed their connection. They slept in the airport overnight. They just need a little space. Sit somewhere else. And she shoved her knees up full against the seat in front of her, blocking my way into the crappy, even before she loaded it with Karen Cruft middle seat. Then she shut her eyes and pretended to be asleep. I slammed the flight attendant button over her head and awkwardly crouch in the row behind so people can get past. We'd already made a scene and clogged up boarding. As I crouched there, I realized nothing about Karen's story made sense. We weren't at the big city airport where flights sometimes did get diverted. We were at the tiny regional airport that only had a couple airlines that flew to a few major hubs. No connections happened there. There also weren't a bunch of other people griping about missed connections, diversions, or having slept in the airport. When a tiny regional has that happen, you know, everybody knows. Karen was probably full of shit. Anyhow, the saintly flight attendant, SFA, Arrived to ask what was wrong. She checked my ticket. Yeah, that was unfortunately my seat. Then she asked Karen to see her and the kids' tickets. Karen kept her eyes closed and continued to pretend to be asleep. I don't know how she thought that would work, but the flight attendant shook her shoulder several times and kept speaking loudly to her. You must remember, boarding is going on all around this. People were hefting bags, trying to find seats, and the usual loud mayhem. It was ridiculous. SFA finally told Karen that if she didn't respond, paramedics would be called about an unresponsive passenger. That got Karen's attention. She popped up and demanded, "What? I'm trying to sleep!" and then went off on the same rant she did at me about her travel nightmare and needing the space. SFA explained that it was a full flight, all the seats were booked, standby passengers were waiting for any extras, and Karen needed to let me sit. This sent Karen into wails over being separated from her baby by a stranger. SFA pointed out that she booked the aisle and window seats herself, leaving that separation, so she could either ask me to swap or sit in them as assigned. That set off another rant. Apparently some frequent flyer travel advice site out there says to book window aisle and hope nobody sits in the middle so you get free space. I imagine this works on flights that aren't full. This one was full. Karen swore she got that tip for how to get an extra seat free off airline's website, and threw quite the shit fit that after they told her to do that, she was being punished by being separated from her baby. Meanwhile, the people in the row in front arrived and Mini Karen was still kicking away like she was at soccer practice. It was so bad the guy in the window seat didn't even want to sit down. He leaned over and asked the kid to stop kicking. Mini Karen let out an unholy wail of "stranger" that she had apparently been trained to do if a stranger spoke to her. Karen turned from her screaming fit at the flight attendant to take in the scene of an adult man, the row in front, looking at her child in horror, and the child wailing, "Stranger!" at the top of her lungs, only to turn right back to the flight attendant while pointing at the dude and demanding, "Get this pedophile off this plane immediately!" That's where SFA went from firm and reasonable to utterly brilliant. She sagely nodded at Karen. "We can't remove him from the flight because he hasn't done anything to your child, but we can certainly get you two reseated if you're not comfortable with your current location and situation. Gather your things. We'll take you up to the desk and see if there are any upgrades available to the more space seats." It was amazing. Karen puffed up in self-importance as she gathered her now happy spawn and all their crap. She threw elbows like mad, shoving her way upstream past all the people still trying to board. She'd heard the magic word upgrade and she was going to get there before it was gone. I sort of cursed to myself that they probably were upgrading her to make her calm the bleep down, and was not thrilled that her ridiculous display worked. Then SFA's coworker came back to ask if I preferred the window or aisle to my middle seat. Aisle, thanks. At least I got that, right? It got better. SFA's coworker explained that I could relax because Karen and EK wouldn't be returning. There were no upgrades. It was faster, easier to get them off the flight that way than calling security. They filled the seats with waiting standby passengers, and presumably Karen had plenty of space to sit next to her Mini Karen in the terminal, while waiting for the next flight. Well played, SFA. Well played.